Weeks had passed, and Lucky's life had fallen into a comfortable routine. He spent his days managing the supermarket and his nights divided between Mrs. Linda and Miracle. But on this particular afternoon, Mrs. Linda's urgent call disrupted his routine. "Lucky, I need to see you now," Mrs. Linda said, her voice laced with a sense of urgency. Lucky's curiosity piqued. He left his supermarket and rushed to Mrs. Linda's house. As he arrived, Mrs. Linda greeted him with a mixture of emotions on her face. "What's wrong, Linda?" Lucky asked, sensing something was amiss. Mrs. Linda took a deep breath before delivering the news. "Lucky, I'm pregnant." Lucky's eyes widened in shock, his mind racing with thoughts. "What? How is that possible?" Mrs. Linda's expression turned defensive. "Don't act surprised, Lucky. You know we've been intimate." Lucky's shock turned to dismay. "But we use protection most of the time, and I thought we were just playing games, Linda." Mrs. Linda's voice rose. "Games? You think getting pregnant is a game? Lucky." Lucky's thoughts scrambled to find a solution. Okay, let's think this through. We can't have a baby, Linda." Lucky thought to himself. He knew he couldn't reveal his relationship with Miracle to Mrs. Linda, at least not now. "Linda, I don't know what to say. I'm shocked, okay? I need some time to think," Lucky stammered, trying to buy himself some time. Mrs. Linda's expression turned cold. "You'd better think fast, Lucky, because I don't know what you're thinking about. I expect you to take care of me and this baby." Lucky nodded hastily, trying to appease her. "Of course, Mrs. Linda. I'll do the right thing." But in his mind, Lucky was racing with thoughts of Miracle and how he could keep this pregnancy a secret from her. He knew his life was about to get a whole lot more complicated. Lucky suggested that Mrs. Linda consider terminating the pregnancy. Her expression turned fierce. "Excuse me, Lucky. You think I wanted this pregnancy? But now that it's here, I've decided to keep it," Mrs. Linda said, her voice firm. Lucky tried to reason with her. "Linda, please think about it. We're not ready for a baby. It's not the right time." Mrs. Linda's anger flared. "You're not ready? You're not ready? I'm the one who's been paying your bills, Lucky. I'm the one who's been taking care of you. And now you're telling me what to do with my body." Lucky backpedaled, trying to calm her down. "Linda, that's not what I meant. I just think we should consider." But Mrs. Linda cut him off. "Consider? You want me to consider? I'm the one who's been considering you, Lucky. I'm the one who's been making sure you're okay. And this is how you repay me." Lucky tried again. "Linda, if it's about money, I'll take care of it. I'll make sure." But Mrs. Linda laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "Money? You think this is about money? I have money, Lucky. I don't need your money. What I need is for you to respect my decision. And my decision is to keep this baby. That's final." Lucky was speechless, realizing too late that he had underestimated Mrs. Linda's determination. He was stuck, trapped in a situation he didn't want, with a woman who was way older than him and determined to have his baby. Lucky resigned himself to the situation. "Fine, Linda. We'll keep the baby." Mrs. Linda's face lit up with a radiant smile. She came close to Lucky, her arms wrapping around him in a tight embrace. "I knew you'd see my way, Lucky. I know I'm way older than you, but I've grown to love you. I want to take care of you, to keep you safe." Lucky felt a wave of discomfort wash over him. This was not what he had planned. "Linda, please," Lucky tried to protest, but she held him tighter. "No, Lucky. Let me tell you how much I love you." You're young, vibrant, and full of life. You make me feel alive again. I'll do anything to keep you by my side." Lucky's mind reeled as Mrs. Linda's words poured over him. He felt trapped, unable to escape the situation. "Linda, I don't know what to say," Lucky stuttered, feeling weaker by the minute. Mrs. Linda's grip on him tightened. "You don't have to say anything, Lucky. Just know that I'll take care of you, of us, of our baby. We'll be happy together. I promise." Lucky's thoughts scrambled to find a way out, but Mrs. Linda's words and actions had left him speechless and helpless. That evening, after Lucky gone home, his girlfriend, Miracle, visited him at home. But Lucky's face wasn't its usual bright self. Miracle noticed the change immediately. "Hey, what's wrong? You look upset," Miracle said, concern etched on her face. Lucky tried to brush it off. "I'm fine, Miracle. Just tired." But Miracle wasn't convinced. "No, Lucky, something's bothering you. Tell me what it is." Lucky sighed, trying to come up with a plausible excuse. "It's just, I had a tough day at the supermarket. One of the employees quit and I had to deal with the fallout." Miracle's eyes narrowed. "That's not it, Lucky. You can tell me what's really going on." Lucky hesitated, unsure of how to reveal the truth. So he used the excuse to deflect her questioning. "I told you, Miracle. It's just work-related stress. Don't worry about it." But Miracle knew Lucky too well. She could see the sadness in his eyes, the weight of his secrets. "Lucky, please tell me what's wrong." "I'm here for you," Miracle said, her voice soft and gentle. Lucky felt a pang of guilt for not being honest with her. But he couldn't bring himself to reveal the truth about Mrs. Linda and the pregnancy. "I'm fine, Miracle. Really. Let's just forget about it and enjoy the evening together," Lucky said, trying to change the subject. Miracle nodded, though her eyes still held a hint of doubt. "Okay, Lucky, but know that I'm here for you no matter what." Miracle hesitated, unsure if she should share her news. "Lucky, I wanted to tell you something today, but you seem upset. Maybe I should wait." Lucky's curiosity was piqued. "No, Miracle, please tell me. I want to know." Miracle still looked uncertain. "I don't know, you're not exactly in the best mood." Lucky begged her to share the news. "Please, Miracle. I'll be fine. Just tell me." Miracle took a deep breath. "Okay, I'm pregnant." Her face lit up with a bright smile, expecting Lucky to share her joy. But Lucky's reaction was the opposite. He was cold, shocked, and speechless. Miracle's smile faltered. "Lucky, say something, please." Lucky tried to pretend he was happy, but his words sounded hollow. "Congratulations, that's great news." Miracle's eyes narrowed. "Lucky, what's wrong? You're not happy about this, are you?" Lucky forced a smile. "Of course, I am. I'm just surprised." Miracle looked unconvinced. "Surprised? You're not even happy. What's going on, Lucky?" Lucky's mind raced to find an excuse. "I'm just worried about the future, that's all." Miracle's face fell. "Worried about the future? You're not excited about having a baby with me." Lucky tried to reassure her. "Of course, I am. I just need some time to process this." But Miracle knew Lucky too well. She could see the fear and uncertainty in his eyes. Lucky held Miracle close, trying to reassure her. "Really, Miracle, I'm happy. I just wasn't expecting a baby right now. I've just started building my life, but it's fine. We'll make it work." Miracle's expression softened, seeing the sincerity in Lucky's eyes. I know we will, Lucky. We'll face this together. We'll figure it out. Lucky nodded, feeling a sense of relief. Yeah, we will. I promise. Miracle smiled, her eyes shining with encouragement. We'll be great parents, Lucky. We'll learn together. And think about it. Our baby will bring us even closer together. Lucky's doubts began to fade, replaced by a sense of hope. You're right, Miracle. We'll make this work. We'll be amazing parents. Miracle's voice filled with conviction. We will, Lucky. We'll support each other every step of the way. We'll be a team. Lucky felt his fears dissipate, replaced by a sense of determination. You're right, Miracle. We got this. We'll scale through this together. Miracle's arms tightened around him. That's the spirit, Lucky. We'll face this challenge head on, together. And our love will only grow stronger because of it. Lucky smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude towards Miracle. Thanks, Miracle. You always know how to make me feel better. Miracle's voice was filled with love. That's what partners are for, Lucky. Now let's celebrate our little Miracle. Lucky's heart never stopped telling him that he's in a great danger. The next day, Lucky found himself in a bar nursing a drink, his mind racing with thoughts of his predicament. What am I going to do? He thought to himself. 2 women, both carrying my child. How did I get myself into this mess? He considered running away, leaving everything behind. But where would I go? He thought. And what about Miracle and Mrs. Linda? They deserve better than a coward who can't face his responsibilities. Lucky's mind wandered to his relationship with Miracle. She's young, vibrant, and full of life, but she's also pregnant with my child. Can I really abandon her? Then his thoughts turned to Mrs. Linda. She's older, more experienced, but she's also carrying my child. And she's made it clear she won't let me go without a fight. Lucky's head spun with the possibilities. Maybe I could try to make it work with both of them. But that's impossible. I'd only end up hurting them more. He thought about seeking advice from friends or family, but quickly dismissed the idea. Who could possibly understand the situation? As the hours passed, Lucky's thoughts only grew more jumbled. He couldn't seem to make a decision, couldn't choose a path to take. Maybe I'll just wait and see what happens, but that's not a solution. That's just cowardice. The more Lucky thought, the more paralyzed he became. He couldn't decide on a course of action, couldn't choose between the 2 women who had become so entangled in his life. And so he sat, nursing his drink, lost in a sea of uncertainty. His phone has been ringing, but he ignored it. The next day, Lucky was in his shop when Miracle walked in looking upset. Lucky, why were you ignoring my calls yesterday? I tried reaching you all day, she asked, her voice laced with concern. Lucky, caught off guard, quickly fabricated a lie. Oh, Miracle, I'm so sorry. I actually traveled to the village yesterday for some work. I was really busy and didn't have time to answer your calls. Miracle's expression turned skeptical. The village? What were you doing there? Lucky's lie began to unravel. I was just checking on some suppliers. Yeah, that's it. Suppliers. Miracle's eyes narrowed. Suppliers? Lucky, you're not even convincing yourself. What's going on? Lucky tried to maintain the charade. Nothing, Miracle. I swear, I was just really busy with work. I didn't mean to ignore your calls. Miracle's voice rose. Busy with work? You're always busy with work, Lucky. But you always make time for me. Yesterday was different. What happens? Lucky's lies were piling up, and he knew he couldn't keep this up for much longer. Miracle, please just drop it, okay? I'll make it up to you, I promise. But Miracle was not one to let things go easily. No, Lucky. I want to know what's going on. You're hiding something from me, and I can feel it. Lucky tried to reassure Miracle. I'm not hiding anything from you, I promise. Just relax, okay? He opened his arms and enveloped her in a warm hug. Miracle melted into his embrace, her tension easing. I love you so much, Lucky, she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. Lucky's heart swelled with affection. I love you too, Miracle, he replied, his lips brushing against hers in a gentle kiss. Just as they were lost in the moment, Mrs. Linda walked into the shop, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on the embracing couple. Her expression froze, her eyes wide with shock. Lucky, sensing something was amiss, pulled away from Miracle and turned to face Mrs. Linda. His eyes met hers, and he knew he was in trouble. Mrs. Linda's face was ashen, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucky, who is this? Lucky's mind raced as he tried to come up with an explanation, but his words caught in his throat. Miracle, oblivious to the tension, smiled brightly. Hi, I'm Miracle, Lucky's girlfriend. Mrs. Linda's eyes narrowed, her gaze piercing. Girlfriend, she repeated, her voice dripping with venom. Lucky's heart sank as he stood there speechless. Mrs. Linda's voice was laced with venom. I thought you said Miracle was your sister, Lucky. Lucky was speechless, his eyes darting between the two women. Miracle's eyes narrowed, sensing something was amiss. Lucky, who is this woman? Lucky still didn't respond, his mind racing for an explanation. Miracle tried again. Is she that your auntie or something? Mrs. Linda's laughter was cold and mirthless. Auntie? Ha! You told her I'm your auntie, and you told me she's your sister. Her voice rose in anger. You've crossed the line, Lucky. Not when I'm pregnant with your child. Miracle's eyes widened in shock. Pregnant? She's pregnant for you too. Lucky's face was frozen in terror, unable to respond. Mrs. Linda's words were laced with malice. Yes, Miracle, I'm pregnant with Lucky's child, and he's been lying to both of us. Miracle's voice trembled. Lucky, is this true? Lucky's silence was deafening, his eyes pleading for mercy. Mrs. Linda's anger boiled over. You're a monster, Lucky. Using both of us for your own twisted games after everything I have done for you. Miracle's face crumpled, tears streaming down her face. Lucky, how could you? Lucky's world was crashing down around him, and he didn't know how to escape the chaos he had created. Mrs. Linda's voice was icy cold. Lucky, you will regret the day you ever agreed to climb into my bed. You will regret the day you ever lied to me. Lucky trembled, knowing he was in trouble. Mrs. Linda, please? But she cut him off. First of all, I'm taking back my supermarket. You're no longer the owner. Miracle's eyes widened in shock, but she said nothing, her anger and hurt evident on her face. Lucky begged, Mrs. Linda, please don't do this. I'll do anything. But Mrs. Linda was unforgiving. You should have thought of that before you lied to me, before you betrayed me. She snatched the shop key from Lucky's hand. I never gave you the papers to this shop because I suspected a day like this would come. I knew you were untrustworthy. Miracle, unable to bear the scene, turned and ran out of the shop, tears streaming down her face. Mrs. Linda's curses rained down on Lucky. You're a fool, Lucky. A foolish, selfish, lying fool. You'll pay for what you've done. Mark my words. Lucky stood, frozen in fear, as Mrs. Linda's wrath consumed him. "I never knew you could go this far. You'll never be trusted again. You've ruined your own life, Lucky." And with that, Mrs. Linda turned and walked away, leaving Lucky shattered and broken. As Mrs. Linda walked away, Lucky's world crumbled around him. He fell to the ground, his body racked with sobs. He cried like a baby, his wails echoing through the empty supermarket. "Oh no, what have I done? What have I done?" he moaned, his voice hoarse from crying. He rolled on the ground, his hands clutching his hair in despair. "Miracle, my miracle. I've lost her. I've lost the only girl I ever loved." He thought of Miracle's smile, her laughter, her tears. He thought of the way she loved him, the way he betrayed her. "Why did I do it? Why did I lie? Why did I cheat?" he wailed, his body shaking with convulsive sobs. He thought of Mrs. Linda's curses, her anger, her wrath. He knew he had brought it all upon himself. "I'm a fool. I'm a selfish, lying fool. I deserve to suffer," he cried, his voice echoing off the walls. As he lay there, he knew he had hit rock bottom. He had lost everything: Miracle, the supermarket, his dignity, his unborn child that Mrs. Linda is carrying. "What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" he moaned, his mind blank with despair. But he knew he couldn't stay there forever. He slowly got up, his eyes red and puffy from crying. He took a deep breath and began to walk away from the supermarket. Lucky walked up to Miracle's house, his heart heavy with regret. He knocked on the door, and when Miracle opened it, her eyes flashed with anger. "Leave my house, Lucky," she spat, her voice cold. But Lucky stood his ground, broken and defeated. "Please, Miracle, just hear me out. I'll tell you everything." Miracle raised an eyebrow but stepped aside, allowing Lucky to enter. Lucky took a deep breath and began his story. "When you were in the hospital, the doctor needed money to continue treating you. I didn't have the money, Miracle. I was desperate." Miracle's expression softened slightly, but her eyes still flashed with anger. "I went to Mrs. Linda, Miracle. I knew she had the money, but she wouldn't give it to me unless I agreed to become her sugar boy." Miracle's eyes widened in shock. "You mean she paid for my treatment in exchange for your body?" Lucky nodded, shame etched on his face. "Yes, Miracle. I know it was wrong, but I didn't know what else to do. I did it for you, Miracle. I did it to save your life." Miracle's expression changed from anger to shock to sadness. "Oh, Lucky, why didn't you tell me? Why did you keep it a secret?" Lucky shook his head. "I was ashamed, Miracle. I didn't want you to know what I had done. But I swear everything I did it for you. I love you, Miracle." Miracle's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too, Lucky. But why did you lie to me?" Lucky sighed, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "I didn't know how to tell you, Miracle. I didn't know how to explain it. I was trapped, Miracle. I was trapped in a situation I didn't know how to escape." Miracle's expression softened as she looked at Lucky. "Oh, Lucky, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." Lucky's eyes welled up with tears. "You don't have to apologize, Miracle. I understand why you were angry." But Miracle shook her head. "No, Lucky, I should have listened to you. I should have tried to stand by you. But my anger took over, and I didn't think about how you felt." Lucky's voice cracked. "I did it for you, Miracle. I did it because I love you." Miracle's eyes filled with tears as she opened her arms and enveloped Lucky in a warm hug. "I love you too, Lucky. I'm so sorry for doubting you." Lucky hugged her back, relief washing over him. I'm just glad you know the truth now, Miracle. I'm glad you understand. Miracle pulled back and looked at Lucky, her eyes shining with tears. I understand that you sacrificed so much for me, Lucky. I understand that you put my needs before your own. Lucky shrugged, feeling a sense of humility. I did what I had to do, Miracle. I did what I thought was right. Miracle's voice was barely above a whisper. You're an amazing person, Lucky. I don't deserve you. Lucky's heart swelled with emotion. You deserve all the love in the world, Miracle. And I'm honored to be the one to give it to you. As they hugged again, Lucky knew that everything was going to be okay. He knew that their love was strong enough to overcome any obstacle. Later that night, after Lucky had left Miracle's house to his, he was getting ready for bed when he heard a knock at the door. He wasn't expecting anyone, but he got up to answer it anyway. When he opened the door, he was met with a shocking sight. Mrs. Linda, standing in his doorway with a goon pointed directly at his face. You betrayed me, Lucky, she hissed, her eyes blazing with anger. I warned you never to betray me, but you did. You lied to me. You cheated on me. And now you're going to pay the price. Lucky's heart was racing as he tried to beg for mercy. Mrs. Linda, please don't do this. I'll do anything. Just don't hurt me. But Mrs. Linda was unforgiving. You should have thought of that before you betrayed me, she spat. I was willing to do anything for you, Lucky. I gave you everything, my love, my trust, my body. But now I have to do the same thing I did to my husband all those years ago when he cheated on me. Lucky's eyes widened in horror as he realized what Mrs. Linda was capable of. No, Mrs. Linda, please don't do this. I'll leave Miracle. I'll never see her again. Just please don't hurt me. But Mrs. Linda just laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. You think it's that easy, Lucky? You think you can just leave Miracle and everything will be okay? No, Lucky. I won't share you with another woman. And now that I'm pregnant with your child, we're both going down. Lucky's mind was racing as he tried to think of a way out of this situation. But before he could come up with anything, Mrs. Linda pulled the trigger. Lucky felt a searing pain in his chest as the bullet hit him, and then everything went black. As he lay there, dying, Lucky saw Mrs. Linda stand over him, the goon still smoking in her hand. She looked down at him with a mixture of anger and sadness, and then she turned the goon on herself. Lucky heard another shot, and then everything was silent. The next day, Miracle's phone buzzed with an urgent message, and her heart sank as she read the words. She rushed to the hospital, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. When she arrived, she was met with a somber-faced nurse who delivered the devastating news. I'm so sorry, Miracle. Mrs. Linda didn't make it. She was pronounced dead on arrival. Miracle's eyes welled up with tears. And Lucky? How is he? The nurse's expression was grim. Lucky is still in surgery. He was still breathing when they brought him in, but his condition is critical. I'm afraid we can't let anyone see him right now. Miracle's heart was racing with anxiety. Please, can't I just see him for a minute? I need to know he's going to be okay. The nurse shook her head sympathetically. I'm sorry, Miracle. The doctors are doing everything they can, but it's going to be a long and difficult surgery. We'll keep you updated. I promise. Miracle nodded, feeling helpless and scared. She paced back and forth in the waiting room, her mind filled with thoughts of Lucky and the events that had led to this moment. As she waited, she couldn't help but think about the complicated web of relationships that had ensnared them all. Mrs. Linda's obsession, Lucky's desperation, and her own blind trust had all contributed to this tragic outcome. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a doctor emerged from the operating room. Miracle Lucky is out of surgery, but his condition is still critical. We're doing everything we can to save him. Miracle's eyes locked onto the doctor's, searching for any glimmer of hope. Will he make it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The doctor's expression was cautious. We'll know more in the next 24 hours. But for now, let's just take it one step at a time. Hours later, Miracle rushed to Lucky's side as the nurse beckoned her. Lucky's eyes were sunken, his skin pale, but he smiled weakly as she approached. Miracle, my love, I don't think I can make it, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Miracle's eyes welled up with tears as she took his hand. Lucky, don't talk like that. You're going to be okay. But Lucky's gaze was insistent. Take care of our child, he whispered, his breath catching. Miracle's voice cracked. Lucky, stop saying that. You're going to be fine. But Lucky's eyes were already glazing over. I love you, Miracle, he whispered, his voice fading. You are my everything. Miracle's tears streamed down her face as she leaned in close. I love you too, Lucky. Don't leave me, please. Lucky's smile was barely perceptible, but his eyes shone with love. Forever yours, he whispered, his eyes closing. Miracle held him close, her heart shattering into a million pieces. Lucky, no, don't go. But it was too late. Lucky's chest stopped rising, and his body went still. Miracle held him for a long moment, her tears soaking his face. Miracle's tears flowed like a river as she mourned the loss of Lucky. Her heart shattered into a million pieces. Lucky wanted to live. He didn't deserve to die, but he did. Let Lucky's tragic story serve as a lesson to you all. Don't let the present situations push you into something that will take your life in a short period of time. Remember, what must be must be. Don't try to force fate or take drastic measures that will lead to destruction. Be open to people at all times, no matter how bad the situation is. Don't bottle up your emotions. Talk to someone, anyone, about how you're feeling. Share your burdens with others, and you'll be surprised at the weight that will be lifted off your shoulders. Taking your life or someone else's is never the answer. No matter the problem you're facing, there's always a way out. Don't let desperation lead you down a path of destruction. Seek help, seek guidance, and seek support. And to the guys, abstain from sugar mummies. Yes, it might seem good at first, but trust me, it will only bring harm. Most sugar mummies are filled with jealousy and intimidation. They will stop at nothing to get what they want, even if it means destroying you. They will lure you with their wealth and material possessions. But remember, there's no price for your peace of mind and your life. Don't sell your soul for temporary gains. Thank you, dear viewers, for taking the time to watch Lucky's story. I appreciate you all so much, and I love you more than words can express. Remember, life is precious, and it's worth fighting for. Don't give up no matter what. There's always hope, always a way forward. Keep your heads up, keep pushing forward, and know that better days are ahead. Don't let the struggles of today define your tomorrow. You are stronger than you think, braver than you feel, and smarter than you know. Remember, love is the answer, not destruction. Subscribe to this channel for more amazing stories.